Okay. Welcome to tonight's License Subcommittee meeting. My name is Councillor Mercy Ume, and I will be chairing tonight's meeting. The meeting is being broadcast live on Council's YouTube channel. I would like to remind all participants of a few housekeeping points. Please keep your microphone muted unless you are speaking. Please keep your camera turned on when speaking at the hearing. Please note that the chat function has been disabled. If parties wish to add additional information other than the allocated time to speak, they must use raise hand function so that they are not missed. I would like to ask all members to keep their questions and comments brief to the point. I now move to item 1 on agenda. Item 1 on agenda. Any apologies for absence? An apology for absence has been received for Councillor Paul Alexandra, as the quorum of the meeting is 2. We may proceed. However, if I or Councillor Dominic Stalton loses connection, the meeting will be adjourned until the members rejoin the meeting. Item 2, declaration of interest. I have to declare that my children went to Sacred Heart School. That was 30 years ago, and that will not affect my judgment. Item 3, 206 to 208 Hammersmith Road, West 6, 7DH. I would like to ask everyone participating to introduce yourself as I call on you. We will have with us Anthony. I'll use the first name, Anthony, the applicant, and Matthew. Anthony, okay. And Matthew, yes?
Yes, we are here.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll ask Lona, the licensing officer.
Present, Chair.
Okay. Emmanuel, the council legal officer.
Present, Chair.
Okay. Objector, Sacred Heart School. James Rankin, FTB Chambers. And we have Sister Catherine Lloyds, Principal Superior, or Sister Susan Thomas. And Sharon Donovan, head teacher. Okay.
That's right. I'm representing them. I'm James Rankin.
Okay, thank you.
Here, Adrian is also here with us. Adrian.
Hi.
Okay, and we have another council officer, Adrian, please. Sorry, forgive me, Adrian, for not.
Thanks, Chair. No problem. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Okay, before we begin, I can confirm that in addition to the main agenda, 2 supplementary agendas containing additional information from applicants and objectors were published and circulated to all parties on 9th of May 2023. Before we consider the application today, please, may I quickly explain the procedure the committee will follow. We will hear from the following. The licensing officer will introduce the application, the objectors, finally the applicant. Usually, each party will address the committee for maximum of 5 minutes. Following the presentation by all parties, the committee may ask questions of any party other than the person present at the hearing. No party has the right to ask questions to any other party at any time during hearing. Following the presentation and questioning, each party will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to sum up their cases or presentation or representation. The committee will then retire for deliberation. Upon its return, I will announce the committee's decision. Please keep your remarks as conscious as possible. Forgive me. Can I ask the officer, the license, Lona, to introduce the application?
Yes, Chair.
On the 20th of February 2023, Matthew Phipps of TLT Solicitors submitted an application on behalf of Yummy Pub Limited, the applicant, for a new premises licence to be granted in respect of the premises known as 206 to 208 Hammersmith Road, London, W6 7DH. The application that has been applied for a new premises for the sale of alcohol both on and off the premises and late night refreshments as detailed. The licensable activities that have been sought are for the sale of alcohol both on and off the premises from Monday to Sunday between the hours of 10 AM till midnight. The provision of late night refreshment indoors only, Monday to Sundays between the hours of 2300 to midnight. The opening hours for the premises shall be Monday to Sunday between the hours of 8 AM to 12:30 AM. The applicant has proposed a number of steps to promote the four licensing objectives if the application is granted. And on the 7th of March 2023, following correspondence from the police, the applicant agreed to further conditions to be added to the licence if granted, all which can be seen within the pages and the appendix of the report. During the consultation period, the licensing section received one representation from the Sacred Heart School objecting to the licence being granted. No representations were received during this period from any of the responsible authorities. The application was advertised and a public notice was displayed at the premises for 28 days in line with the regulations. Further supplementary agenda was submitted by both the applicant and the objectors, which have been circulated to all parties. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Lorna. Now we have to have the objector. Can we hear from James? And I have 5 minutes to present your case.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just before I start, can I ask the committee's indulgence? I've got a Google Street View. I know that you know the area very well, but it may be that you may be assisted by a reference to the Google Street Map, which will show the entrances to the school and the positioning of the application site.
Okay. Accept. We agree. Okay.
Very much. All right, but just before I show that, I'll start now. Can I just deal with the question of engagement? Because there is concern amongst those that I represent about the lack of engagement by the applicant when they put their application in. They consulted with the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham and the Metropolitan Police, but one would have hoped that they would have consulted with us. They reached out in the vernacular on the 6th of April. And we wrote back on the 27th of April saying, well, yes, let's have a meeting. Let's have a meeting early in the following week. And since then, the emails I have seen show a distinct lack of response. Now, it's easy to dismiss the concerns that the Sacred Heart has as alarmist and catastrophizing. But can I say this, that these concerns are genuinely held beliefs. They have a duty of care to the 1,200 girls that they look after. And the duty of care extends not only when they're inside the school, but also when they leave the school. And more importantly, immediately upon leaving. And we do not say that these fears are fanciful, because you'll recall that the premises used to be licensed as a restaurant called Villaggio. And even though it was a restaurant, even though people had to sit down, and even though people had to eat a meal in order to consume intoxicating liquor, we still had problems. And the problems related to the delivery during classroom hours, the emptying of bottles during classroom hours, and such like. But by and large, I say this broadly, restaurants do not cause a problem. And this is recognized in your statement of licensing policy. It's recognized up and down the country. If somebody's sitting down and they're having a substantial table meal, then the opportunity for disorder, it's much lessened. You cannot say the same for public houses. Now, Mr. Phipps, Matthew, on behalf of Yummy Pub Company, clearly has a difficulty. because the company that he represents is a company which owns 2 other pubs. There's one in Euston and there's one in Mile End. Both are pubs. They describe themselves as pubs. All of their literature, their website describe them as pubs. And it's a technique which is often used by advocates in order to sugar the pill, to make it easier to swallow. If we don't call it a pub, then in some way it's all right. So if we say, well, no, it's food-led. If we say it's not a pub, then automatically it doesn't become a pub. It is a pub. It is a pub because they will not consent to any condition which seeks to restrict the sale of intoxicating liquor to those people who are having a substantial table meal. And that's the difficulty that he faces. Now, he will say this, well, look, we're proposing a whole list of conditions. That's of no concern to us because the concern that we have relates directly to the locality. And let me just show you what that looks like. There you see is the application site itself. Here is a barrier which is in place at the moment. The cycle lane has been completed now, so all of these yellow plastic barriers are removed. But this is the proximity of the school. That is the entrance for the senior school, and that is the exit for the senior school. And if you or I were to stand outside at the school gates at 3 o'clock or thereabouts, we would see 400 girls aged between 16 and 19 exiting from that gate. And the route that they would take is directly along here to this Pelican Crossing, which is immediately opposite the application site. Now, Mr. Phipps will say, well, it's not a narrow pavement. When you've got 300 to 400 girls there, it is. Now, why are they there? They're there because they want to go to the bus station, which is immediately opposite. And in order to get there, they have to stand on this narrow traffic island. The tube station, obviously, is there as well. But it doesn't end there because
Your 5 minutes is up.
I started at 38, I thought.
Yeah.
Can I just show you this here?
Yeah.
Because this is Bute Gardens, where the junior school is. And at 3 o'clock, you have got some 600 girls exiting from that, coming down Bute Gardens, all the way to the same traffic island in order to access across the road. We say this, that it doesn't matter if you've got seating inside, that they're offering no conditions which prevent people from standing outside. There is a subsidiary point, it's this. I'm pointing at the moment to some gates there. That is convent-led. They have no right to place any rubbish inside those gates. And so the question, and it's a public nuisance.
Your minutes is up now. I think, we've allowed you a few minutes now. You started at it's now 3 minutes. So I think we have given you enough. 5 minutes is up. So I can't go more than that. Yeah, during sum up, you can tell us more during sum up.
Okay.
Yeah. So before we continue, sorry, the Matthew, I did not ask your permission for the
Forgive me for speaking. It's the councillor who's frozen, not us. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think the chair's just trying to rejoin now, so she shouldn't be much longer.
Adrian, or I don't know if it's Charles that's hosting this meeting. Do we know why Councillor Ume dropped out?
I think there was just issues with her connection, but I can see that she's trying to rejoin. So
Is
should we
she-
give her another few more minutes? If that's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe until 10 to, if everyone's okay with that.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine with us.
Great, thank you.
On that basis, then, I'm just going to very quickly top up my coffee.
Good idea. Debbie, can you see if Councillor Ume is trying to get back into the meeting because she's saying she can't get back in? I think the issue that we've got is we're already down one member, so we can't continue with just one member, unfortunately. Debbie, are you still there?
Yes, I am trying to type her email address to invite her back. So.
Oh, okay. What invite her back separately rather than her use the invite?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will see what I can do.
Is everyone okay if we just wait another 5 minutes then? Because as I said, it's sort of critical that the councillor rejoins with only one other member, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're very happy to, speaking on behalf of the applicant, I don't know if you can see us, but we're very happy to wait, and candidly, we'll wait as long as it takes.
And I'm perfectly happy as well.
Yes, happy.
Great, thank you. Apologies for this.
Yeah. Yeah, the chair is here. Chair, you are here.
Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant.
Wow. What's wrong with this? Sorry about that. This technical issues.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think we have applicants now to, unless they've already said made their statements.
No, Chair. Obviously, as you only have two councillors, we've not said a word since you dropped out.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Matthew Philip. Okay, I will allow you 6 minutes maximum because James took 6 minutes, so I'll allow you 6 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Forgive me, before we start, I'm not even sure if James is back on the call now.
Oh.
Yes, no, I'm.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So I have 5 points to make. One about the applicant, one about the application, one about the representations, one about the submissions document that we've provided to you that is in the supplementary papers, and one about the policy and the officer report. So in dealing with the applicant, this is an accomplished, experienced, fit and proper, to use the old language, applicant providing a premium offer with exceptional service, which is a phrase you will have seen from the presenter document that gives you a little introduction to what's being proposed, who operates public houses but is diversifying his offer suitable and appropriate to the location. And he has a strong history of compliance. In terms of the application itself, Lorna has taken you through that, but it is a sensible and appropriate application, and it is conditioned entirely properly for what's proposed. There seemed to be a lot of talk about it being a public house. I'm at a loss to understand that, but even if it was a public house, I'm bound to say, one's bound to ask, what is a public house? There are lots of public houses with Michelin stars who are providing excellent food and service. There are pubs that are less attractive. This is not a backstreet boozer, and I would ask you to spend a little time in the presentation when you come to retire. The hours are limited. You will see from Lorna's report what your usual hours are for premises in mixed neighbourhoods. We've not applied for 1 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. You will have seen the police commentary in the email chain where we agreed the conditions with them, where they effectively complement the operating schedule and the conditions that have been proposed in the application in the course of our dialogue with them. In terms of representations, my third point, you will undoubtedly be struck by the fact there are no representations from responsible authorities at all. And your legal officer will no doubt advise you, and it's touched on in our submissions, about paragraph 912 of the national guidance, which talks to the expertise of officers. We undertook pre-application consultation and dialogue with the officers, as your policy indicates. I'm bound to take some issue with the suggestion we've not sought to engage properly. We didn't engage with the school in advance of the submission of the application, perfectly fair point for James to make. But we wrote to the school solicitors when we were provided with their contact details on the 29th of March. The 6th of April, we had a "we'll come back to you" response. We chased on the 14th of April. We had a "we'll come back to you" response. We chased on the 24th of April. We had a substantive response on the 27th of April, raising the idea of a meeting, and we reverted on the 27th and twice on the 3rd of May, to which we have had no reply whatsoever. There are no residents who object to this application, and there are no later night concerns, as I would categorise them. We have the objection from the school, and James used the phrase alarmist and catastrophising. That perhaps, to be fair, stretches it, but you will see reference to people being forced to the edge of the footway, people stumbling into traffic, how it's suggested that a premises in proximity to a school may be in conflict with policy, although I cannot find any support for that in the policy. How they've raised concerns about sporting events. We've proposed a condition not to show sport. We've explained that music will be background only. They talk about underage children accessing the premises. You will see the protection of children from harm conditions that we have proposed in the application. You will see that the premises is laid out to tables and chairs, and in the commentary about restaurants being much less risky or of concern to authorities than pubs, you will note that the food point apart and the provision of substantial table meals and the alcohol being ancillary to that, we are laid out to tables and chairs, and you will see the conditions within that. I do then ask you to, when you come to retire, to look at our submissions which flesh out some of these points. You'll also have consideration for your policy, particularly pages 4 and 7 of your 60-page policy. I'd invite your attention toward that, which talks about each application quite rightly being determined on its individual merits. I anticipate you're about to tell me to be quiet, Chair.
That's correct, because that's your 6 minutes already. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I'll ask the committee, can the committee member ask questions to any party on issues that has been raised on this hearing? Councillor Stenton.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be honest, I don't really have many questions. It seems to me that the issues are actually, but both parties, thank you very much for your very clear and concise summaries and representations. They've actually been very helpful. I do have one or two small questions, which I'll ask now, and then, Chair, depending on what questions you have, I may ask for some further time afterwards. The first question, and these are in no particular order, is there's been sort of talk about rubbish collections and deliveries and other deliveries during school hours. Can I ask from the applicant two things, please? The first is actually where is rubbish actually stored externally? And secondly, in terms of scheduling, when would you be intending to put rubbish out and also take deliveries?
So can I answer the second part first, if I may, Councillor? Within the operating schedule in the public nuisance section, at part D of the application, we've set out the conditions effectively prohibiting, for want of a phrase, deliveries, waste management, etc., between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. So it would be within school hours is the straight answer to the question. You'll appreciate both your policy and, candidly, the engagement with the officers was focused at that time on the protection of the night time. So it would be, there's no dancing around it, it would be within school hours. In terms of the bins, effectively, when you looked at the Google Earth view, there was a lane to the left-hand side. At the end of that, or not the end of that lane, at the end of the premises part of that lane, effectively is the kitchen on the right. So they would come out through the kitchen on the right, into the lane and then down onto the main road for collection.
Right, when you say the lane, do you mean Butte Gardens?
No, it was. There's a little. If I take you to the submissions document, it's in the supplementary agenda. We provided some photographs.
Okay, no, it is. It's
also,
that.
There's also a little map plan, if it helps, that we provided as well. Do you mind if I hold it up? Obviously I can't share, but there's a little map plan that looked like that.
I have it in front of. Hang on.
Thank you.
As you'll appreciate, I have quite a few documents.
No, I do. And then
I'm just trying to find the right one.
There's another one which is actually beyond our part of the building, but there's a little gate showing a lane, and it's effectively the same width all the way up.
Right. Okay, I have that. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, and sort of just, I'll tell you my thinking. My concern is that you say that it will be during school hours. Yes. That's quite. The window that you've put in is a 14-hour window. School hours are normally considerably less than that. So my question to you really would be, should this application be granted with a varying condition which sought to reduce the overlap? Yeah. Would that be something that might be acceptable to yourselves?
So yes, we're not wanting to have a fractious relationship. Quite the reverse. There are going to be our neighbours. We want to have a good relationship, as we understand our landlord, the previous restaurateur, had with the school himself. I ought to add, though, just in terms of the restrictions, I'd just invite you to focus on those that may be seen to fairly cause a nuisance or be a disturbance, if that makes sense. So, for example, one of the features you'll have seen from our presenter is going to be fish, and that's going to be quite a big focus of the restaurant. Fish deliveries, as you will all know, tend to be early morning because freshness. And so if there wasn't, if you will, a licensing objective rationale for the restriction, and respectfully, I'd suggest the delivery of fish wouldn't be one, then obviously we wouldn't want to be prohibited from taking delivery of fresh fish. But if we focus, say, on putting bottles out, I think one of the points made in our correspondence with the school is we're not using 1,100 litre bins, we're using 240 litre bins as a means of trying to have more modest sized bins. But if we take bottling out, as it's colloquially called, the putting out of bottles, then that's a perfectly fair point, and I get it.
Thank you. And if I can just hand that over to Mr. Rankin or a representative from the school, would that be of any, and I say should the application be granted, would that be of any help?
Can I just say this, that it may be that Mr. Phipps has missed the point. Agenda item 6, which is the addendum A, shows the land registry entry. And it may have been that he misunderstood the purpose of submitting that. The purpose of submitting that is to show that they have no right over that lane. It's known as Convent Lane. They have no right to use it. They have no right to pass up and down it. They can't put bins out there. It belongs to the trustees. So they have a fundamental difficulty about where they put their bins anyway, because they can't put them in that lane.
Thank you. If I could ask, though, if you could perhaps address the question that I asked, I'd be very grateful.
Certainly, insofar as putting bottles out, yes, perhaps some accommodation can be made, bearing in mind the fact that there are going to be something like 1,000 girls standing near that Pelican crossing, and where they're going to be putting those bottles. If they wanted to do that at a later time in the day, then that would seem sensible, but certainly not in an earlier part of the day, which would disturb the lessons in the way that it disturbed the lessons in the past.
Thank you.
Councillor Stanton, would you mind if I just picked up on the lane?
Can you just wait for one second? I should remind everybody here, or if the chair would prefer to, that matters of land registry and such are not really a matter for this committee. We're here to uphold the 4 licensing objectives. So we'll just put that to one side, if we may. Thank you. Can I just ask the applicant again? I know you've already outlined it, but you have already said that you have very experienced people making this application, so they have or should have a very good idea of the business model and the makeup of clientele. If you could just expand on that, just I know it's in the papers, but just for the committee's purpose, just so we can have an idea of the type of I'm talking about the type of demographic and type of in terms of the food versus drink that you would be expecting, not necessarily what suits or dresses they might be wearing.
Yeah, so good evening, everybody. My name's Anthony and I am the lead operator. 15 years experience, yes, in public houses, but also in premium gastro venues as well, which we've recently sold pre-COVID. The makeup would be a premium food offer based around local British ingredients, predominantly fish that are sustainably caught. The complementing drinks, and it is complementing drinks to that, are British wines, a number of continental wines, 3 taps of beer to be really clear, but all from local coastal breweries, microbreweries. And to give you an idea, the Great British Pint in a pub, we will not be serving pints of beer. We will be serving 2/3 pints because that's more complementary to food in the offer. It is a seated table service. On the plans, the bar is minimal. There's room for 3 people to sit at the bar in high chairs. There is no standing space at that bar. There is a service space for the team for waiter service.
Thank you. Chair, I think that's it for me for now.
Thank you, Councillor. I think you have covered most of my questions actually. The school is what do you think of sit down and with meal? Because they are requesting you have a sit down with meal. That is I'm asking the applicant Matthew.
Yes, Chair, to be fair, they have raised that in the engagement that we have had with them. That isn't a condition that we have agreed, and respectfully, nor do we agree. Not to be awkward, because the business proposition, first of all, doesn't allow for the business to proceed. And secondly, I'm bound to say it's not our view that that will promote the licensing objectives. There isn't as perhaps was suggested, fair conclusion to be drawn that all restaurants that oblige table dining are marvellous and all pubs that don't are awful. The reality is that each operation must be judged on its individual merits, and that's a reflection of the applicant, their standards, their training, their clientele, their pricing, their decor, thousands of different factors. It simply isn't, respectfully, part of our business model, but from a licensing objectives perspective, it's not our view that it is necessary or appropriate in the context of this application.
Yeah. Mr. James, you mentioned that you wrote to school that they were not engaging. Could you tell us more about this, not being able to engage?
The
Not
email,
you. Yes.
So the emails that I have seen indicate that there was no engagement prior to the application being put in. One would have thought that that would be the approach that would be taken by any sensible operator. It's perfectly clear in our view that there would be an adverse impact on the school. And any right-thinking applicant should at least have engaged with us before the application was put in, as indeed they engaged with the police and the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham. It's certainly clear that from the email of the 6th of April, which was responded to on the 27th of April, that there was willingness on our part to have a meeting. The difficulty I have is that the partner that was dealing with it, those who instruct me, his firm of solicitors, has subsequently gone on leave and we don't have access to his emails. So if Mr. Phipps says there were chaser emails, then I can't gainsay that. But suffice to say that my primary point is that we should have been consulted before the application went in.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I don't have much questions on this because but I don't know. Can I ask the Matthew the same question, or the applicant? Why is it that they didn't approach you, as you said? Why were they not able to approach the same time they approach the police? They might have their own view, but let's hear their own view as well. So Anthony, could you, the school, you should have, I know you mentioned that the previous owner had connection with the school, which maybe it could have equally continued if you have approached them, that you are being the new person going to business or having this business. So what happened there?
So, Chair, it's perfectly right when James says we didn't engage with the school prior to the submission of the application. Candidly, we didn't believe that was either necessary or appropriate. Perhaps wrongly, it will be said, although what that quite has to do with the licensing objectives and the premises operates, I'm unsure. But we engaged with the authority and we engaged with the police, and we did a series of calls and emails and discussions. We had conversations about the makeup of the local area, specifically with the police about residential proximity and so forth. And then we submitted the application. And if we could and should have engaged before, then I apologise. But I'm bound to say that the policy invites engagement with officers. It doesn't invite the conclusion that we should anticipate every last concern. However, having had the representation, and I appreciate that James is at a disadvantage because the solicitor is on leave and unable to be contacted, but we repeatedly sought to engage. And whilst there were acknowledgements initially of our emails from, I think, not a partner, but actually a trainee solicitor at that time who said, we'll come back to you, we'll get instructions and so forth, we had one substantive response some weeks, 3 weeks, I think, after our first engagement. And then we sent 3 subsequent emails from memory, although I'm happy to be corrected, to both the partner and the solicitor who seemed to have the conduct of the matter. Those were sent on the 27th and 2 on the 3rd of May, to which we've had, I'm afraid, since the 3rd of May, just silence.
Okay. Being that the premises we are talking about is very close to school, I'm not. I don't know where all their other premises are, and so what will you put in place in terms of for provision of young adults from drinking and all that? I know you have had that kind of premises before. So, but being this premises is very close to school. So, what do you have in place?
Yes, Chair. So it's the last section of the application that is in the original pack. There's a protection of children from harm section. We have a challenge 25 policy. So anyone who appears to be under the age of 25 coming into the premises will be challenged for age. We have employees engaged for delivery to be trained. We have staff to be aware of the law and to be trained. And we have a condition that all children are to be supervised by a responsible adult at all times. So there are no unaccompanied children at these licensed premises whatsoever. I mean, you'll forgive me for saying so, but if someone were to turn up at the premises in school uniform, bluntly, they're not getting in. I think is the fair thing to say. We've lots of experience, and everybody seems to be decrying our previous operations with public houses. But if public houses teach anybody anything, it's to be very watchful and mindful of those who may try to access alcohol in a public house environment and have systems in place for that. In a table, elevated, fish-driven, smart premises with a limited capacity, everyone's seated, and you'll see from the plan, the room absolutely full wouldn't have 75 persons within it, and a number of staff and the bar. Respectfully, we've plenty of provision to protect against children accessing alcohol here.
Yeah. And you mentioned you are not going to have any recording or any live music in the premises.
Yes. So the representation seeks to suggest, because the government has chosen to deregulate live and recorded music and has said anybody who has a license can have live and recorded music that is an entertainment, provided it's not to a capacity of more than 500 and it stops before 11. We've not applied for any entertainment, and we've sought to engage and have proposed additional conditions seeking to address the school's concerns, which are in our submissions and are set out there. It just simply isn't our business. Our music is effectively going to be background recorded music to the same type and style as you might find in, to go back to this restaurant argument, 1,000 restaurants around the country. Or 10,000, I rather suspect.
Yeah, thank you. I know my committee member have asked this question on bottles. You know, the effect of bottle rattling at school during school period, and so I'm kind of how would you stop that? Is it possible you address that towards evening when the school children have gone, or what are you thinking around that?
Well, I know it was touched on by your colleague. We're perfectly open to that being a restriction, so that there is no risk of the activities that would cause a public nuisance effectively being conditioned on the face of the licence. Nobody's resistant to that. When we formulated the operating schedule in dialogue with the officers, the focus was on the night time. So far, and forgive me if I've got this wrong, it hasn't been an engagement that we've had from the school. But if the committee's view is, look, we want to make sure that bottling out doesn't interrupt school, we're very happy with that. Nobody is wanting to be resistant to that. But I just would ask you just to moderate the activities that could fairly be said to cause a public nuisance, of which bottling out could fairly be said to fall within that, but not to restrict us to make effectively the business unviable or make it very difficult to operate the business in a usual way. I mean, I'm bound to make the point. This premises has been licensed for 30, 40, 50 years. And you will see from your officer's report that there is no enforcement history whatsoever in relation to this premises. It's set out, I think, on the second page of Lorna's report within your pack, paragraph 4.1. No warnings, cautions, prosecutions given in respect to the premises in the last 3 years.
Okay, for entrance, how would entrance look? Which because you have a basement have got entrance out to the road, and the upper one has got entrance. So how would entrance look? Everyone will come through the front. It's only that front, only the front.
It's a fire escape, effectively. If there's an escape from the basement, everyone comes through the front.
Okay. All right. Councillor Stanton, do you have more questions?
No, Chair, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. I don't have any more questions. To objector, I don't have much question to objectors, and maybe now we can go into summing up, and I'm going to ask the three. We are going to sum up in this order. The licensing officer will have to sum up. Only 3 minutes is allowed to sum up. So can we start with the licensing officer, Lorna?
Nothing further to add, Chair.
Nothing. Okay. Can I ask the objector? You have 3 minutes to sum up. That is James Rankin.
Thank you. I'm starting a timer.
Yeah.
If they were applying for a pub, I wouldn't have much of an argument against it. But if they were applying for a restaurant rather than a pub, I couldn't argue against that. But they're applying for a pub. And it doesn't matter that the premises have been licensed for years and years and years. They've never been licensed as a pub. And there's a big difference, no matter how much Matthew wants to dress it up. Now, the question of the rubbish is really important. The point about the land registry, just ignore the land registry and just accept this as a matter of fact and law. They have no right to use convent lane. So where on earth are they going to put their rubbish? Because they cannot store it down that lane. They have to put it outside the premises. And therein lies the difficulty. It doesn't matter that 70% of the premises is laid to seating, because 30% of it is not. And 100% of the premises is open to people outside because they've applied for off sales. What that means in practical terms, on a hot summer's day, they can have however many people they want standing outside the premises consuming alcohol. And we don't want that to happen because there's an obvious conflict between 1,000 girls and men and people standing outside the pub, drinking and consuming alcohol. Now, we accept that they've got all sorts of protocols in place for not serving people who don't look under 25 unless they've checked ID. We accept all that. We're not suggesting that our girls are going to come out of the Sacred Heart and pour into these premises. What we are suggesting is that they're going to come out and they're going to be exposed to a whole load of people standing outside the premises. They already are subject to catcalls and whistles, and we don't want that to happen. There's also a public safety issue there. So it's public nuisance with the rubbish. It's public safety with the pinch point on the Pelican Crossing, and it's the protection of children from harm, exposing them to the people standing outside the pub, which has never historically ever happened before. And that's what you're asked to do. So there it is. We would not have any complaint if they were applying for a restaurant. We do have a complaint because they're applying for a pub. 30 seconds to go, that's me.
Okay, thank you. Can we have Matthew, 3 minutes summing up?
Thank you, Chair. Committee, I do ask you just to reflect on what's been said in the course of the evening from the objectors. It sounds awfully like an objection to licensed premises that are anything other than a restaurant. And it cannot be the conclusion of any committee that anything that doesn't have a substantial table meal condition is inherently, as night follows day, going to cause issues, difficulties, and fundamentally undermine the licensing objectives. One need only look at the representation, and I do take James's words, the catastrophization point is very well made. I'd respectfully call this a kitchen sink objection. Anything and everything that could possibly go wrong with the premises is said in this objection to bound to be the case. The fundamental question is only ever really about how likely is it that the licensing objectives would be undermined by this operation. The characterization of what we're proposing as a pub is also, I would suggest, very informative. It's clearly stretching the boundaries of common sense to suggest, if you look at our plan and our presenter and the conditions on our license, to frankly pretend this is a pub. You need only look at the point about 70% of the tables and chairs of the premises being laid out to 70% tables and chairs. The 30% doesn't create 30 more customers who are standing. That's the space between the tables and the chairs that you need in order to walk to the lavatory or walk in to the premises. And that again is instructive. It is pushing at the boundaries of credibility at every point. You need only look at the plan for the new anxiety or the significant anxiety. Forgive me for holding it up. Look at the plan and the area that we have marked for the outside space. There are 4 mini tables with 8 chairs. And so quite where the hordes and masses catcalling outside the premises are coming from, candidly, I simply don't know. You're an experienced committee. I'd ask you respectfully to remember that each application needs to be considered on its individual merits and on any fair analysis of this applicant, this application, this operating schedule.
I have to stop you. I have to stop. Yeah, 3 minutes is over. Okay. The committee will now retire and take its decision in a separate room. An adjournment tile will be displayed during deliberation. You are welcome to remain into the meeting to hear the committee's decision. However, this might take some time. If you do not want to wait, a summary decision will be published on council website tomorrow morning. Can I ask all members, the committee members, to turn off their microphone and join me in the private discussion? Thank you.
Chair, could I just ask if you would give us a not before time so we could go to the lavatory? We are going to wait, but could we just, will you be back within 10 minutes or quarter of an hour?
The officer will tell you.
Thank you.
Yeah, more than 10 minutes, please.
Lovely. That 10 minutes is great. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Okay. Never mind. Is everybody in? Hello? Lona?
Present, yeah, everyone's here.
Okay, everybody's back. Okay, thank you. Okay, a summary decision for of the subcommittee meeting on May 10th, 2023, 206 to 208 Hammersmith Road, London, West 6, 7DH. The committee has considered an application for new premises license for the sale of alcohol, both on and off premises, and late night refreshments indoors under the Licensing Act 2003. In summary, the committee has decided, after taking into account all the individual circumstances of this case and the promotion of full licensing objective, to grant the application. 1. 2. The license is subject to condition imposed by the police condition agreed by the applicant and following condition added by the committee. No service to be provided externally Monday to Friday before 6 p.m. during terms time of Sacred Heart School. Tables and chairs to be removed outside of the licensing hours. This license become operational within immediate effect. If problems are experienced, then an application for a review of the premises license can be made. A copy of committee's full decision, including its reason and the full text of condition added to the licensing, will be sent to the parties forthwith. If applicant is unhappy with the decision, they are entitled to appeal to the magistrate court within 21 days from the date of notification of full decision. I would like to thank everyone for attending or watching on tonight's meeting. A summary decision will be published on our website tomorrow. We will now have the second agenda. Thank you everyone for attending, and bye-bye for now. Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening.
Debbie, do you know if the chair has lost connection or if she's left deliberately? Because I think we were intending to take a 5-minute break between the two hearings.
Okay. I am sending messages to her, asking her, inviting her to join. Maybe she will take a break. But
as I say, we were intending to, but I thought she was going
Okay.
to announce it. So the real question is, can I pop away for 5 minutes, or should I just wait for her to come back?
I think we can take a 5-minute break if you have this understanding.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
I believe she's trying to come back.
Yes.
Okay, I'll hold on for that.
Yeah.
I'll hold on for that.
She's here.
Yeah. Is everybody in?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Welcome to tonight's License Subcommittee meeting. My name is Councillor Mercy Ume, and I'll be chairing tonight's meeting. The meeting is being broadcast on live on Council's YouTube channel. I would like to remind all participants of few housekeeping points. Sorry. Hello. I would like to remind all participants of few housekeeping points. Please keep your microphone muted unless you are speaking. Please keep your camera turned on when speaking at the hearing. Please note the chat function being disabled. If parties wish to add additional information other than the allocated time to speak, they must use their raise hands function so that they are not missed. I also ask that members keep their questions and comments to brief to the point. I now move to agenda one. Agenda one, apologies for absence. An apology for absence has been received from Council Paul Alexandra. As the quorum of this meeting is 2, we may proceed. However, if I or Council Stanton loses connection, the meeting will be readjourned until the other member rejoins the meeting. Item 2, declaration of interest. Do members have any declaration of interest?
No, Chair.
No, thank you. Item 3, Riverside Studios, 101 Queens Caroline Street, London, W6, 9BN. I would like to ask everyone participating to introduce yourself as I call on you. We should have with us Tony, as I call the first names, Tony and Sam, the applicant, represented by Ben.
Good evening, Chair. I'm Tony. I'm the Executive Director and Joint CEO of Riverside.
Okay, but you are being represented by Ben.
Can I just, sorry, did you say representing Sam as well?
I saw Sam Harrison here.
But this application is Riverside Studios. We're separate. Just important to make that clear.
Okay. Okay. So are you Tony?
I'm here as a neighbour of Riverside Studios and a tenant. But the application is nothing to do with me.
Okay, so but what's your name? You are Ben. Are you Tony? Are you Sam?
That was Sam.
My name is Sam Harrison.
Sam, okay. Okay, all right. We have Lorna McKenna, who is a licensing officer. Then we have Emmanuel, who is council legal officer. We have objectors, which is James and Karen. James?
Hi, I'm actually not a supporter. I'm neutral, but I've got various comments to make.
Are you objecting? Are you object or no?
I am not objecting.
Okay, we have Karen McDonald.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And her husband, Philip McDonnell, I also registered, and I'm on the same line.
What's your name then, please? Because I'm getting confused here.
My name is Philip McDonnell.
Okay.
And I got a notification that I'd get a link, but the link never came through. So I'm on the same link as Karen.
Okay. Officer, can I have Lorna, please? Lorna, could you tell me who will be speaking on this? Because I haven't got Philip here.
Philip did submit a valid representation.
Hmm?
I said Philip, yeah.
So, okay, Philip will be speaking. Any other person that will be speaking, because I have here only James, Karen, And Ben, who said it's not there.
Sorry, Ben is on the call. He is working with Riverside at the moment, but this is Tony speaking, I'll be making the case for Riverside.
Okay. Okay. All right. So before we begin, I can confirm that in addition to the main agenda, a supplementary agenda containing additional information from the objector has been published and circulated to all parties this morning. Before we consider the application today, please, may I quickly explain the procedure the committee will follow. We hear from the following: the licensing officer will introduce the application, the objectors who have registered to speak, finally, the applicant. Usually, each party will address the committee for 5 minutes. Following this presentation by all parties, the committee may ask questions to any other party other than the person present at the hearing. No party has the right to ask questions or any other party at any time during the hearing. Following the presentation and questioning, each party will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to sum up their representation or present. The committee now will retire for deliberation. Upon its return, I will announce the committee's decision. Please keep your remarks as short as possible. Officer presenting, and we have another officer, Edrin, who is here. Edrin, are you here?
Yes, I'm here, Chair. I'm just here to assist Lorna this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just to mention you in case we need their advice, you need their help.
No problem. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Can I ask the officer presenting to introduce the application? Please.
Yeah, can I just clarify something, Chair? I seem to have made an error. Sam Harrison didn't submit a representation, and his email, I thought he was part of the applicant, and I've just realised he's not, so he won't be actually able to make any comment. He can be here to observe, but he won't be able to speak.
Okay, so I have Tony, and I have Philip
and Ben. Yeah. Apologies, because the email addresses were quite similar, so I've just realised, so he won't be able to make comment. He can observe. So it'd be Tony and Ben speaking for the applicant, and then James made comments, so he was just a neutral, so he can speak to make comments, and then Karen and Philip made objections.
Okay. So in that case, how do we? Okay.
So it will just be, so on the applicant side, it will be Tony and Ben speaking, and then James was neutral, and then Karen and Philip can speak to make objections.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Okay.
Apologies.
Okay, it's fine. Okay, now, so we have you to present the case.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
On the 27th of February 2023, Riverside Trust, the applicant, submitted an application for a variation to the premises licence to be granted in respect of the premises known as the Riverside Studios, 101 Queen Caroline Street, London, W6 9BN. The premises currently benefits from a premises licence, and the current premises licence permits the following: performance of dance indoors only, Monday to Sunday, 9 AM till 12:30 AM. Exhibition of film indoors only, 9 AM till 12:30 AM. The performance of live music indoors only, Monday to Sunday, 9 AM till 12:30 AM. And the playing of recording music indoors only, Monday to Sunday, 9 AM till 12:30 AM. The performance of play indoors only, Monday to Sunday, 9 AM till 12:30 AM, and the sale of alcohol on the premises, Monday to Sunday, 11 AM till 11 PM. The opening hours of the premises is 7 AM till 1 AM. The applicant has applied to vary the licence to amend the condition 37, 45 and 46 on the premises licence, all which have been detailed within the report. During the consultation period, the licensing section received six representations from residents objecting to the licence application. A further 2 comments were received in response to the application, and no representations were received from any responsible authority. A public notice was displayed at the premises for 28 days and the application was advertised in line with the regulations of the Licensing Act. There has been previous enforcement history at the premises, which has been detailed in the report, along with mentions of temporary event notices within the last 12 months. The supplementary agenda, which was circulated today on the 10th of May, was from a resident who submitted a representation with further comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, then we have we go to the objectors. So, James and Karen.
Thank you. As I said, I'm not an objector. I have got various comments though.
Okay.
I'd like Riverside Studios to prosper and survive. In general, I support the variations. However, we must bear in mind our Riverside Studios is now in administration and we don't know who the new operators will be or what type of operation it'll be. And 3 detailed comments. Their proposed condition 45 says no vertical drinking in external areas. Judged on last summer, to enforce that, they will have to have better controls than they did then. Sorry. And 2 other things which are actually not completely relevant to this variation, but just to say that in my view, in the residents' view, they are in quite frequent breach of license condition 25 to do with no smells, and mandatory condition 24, no noise or vibration associated with the operation of plant, which is the air handling units on the roof. But that's all I've got to say.
Okay. Thank you very much, James. Okay, Karen.
Yes, I'm a member of the Residents Association and also a close neighbour of the bar cafe. We live above the outside space, or one part of the outside space that Riverside Studios operate their cafe in. And the Residents Association neither objected nor supported, but as a private resident, I did object, as did my husband, Philip, who may speak later, mainly on the grounds that, as James has alluded to, quite a lot of conditions were breached since the last licensing application, and actually since the application that was rejected by you. We also find that the biggest concern is the increase in hours, because there is a lot of disturbance to the local community as a result of the activities, however well-intentioned. They don't have the staffing. They do breach the conditions quite frequently with drinking on the wall, serving customers when they shouldn't, and so on, particularly in the summer. And while they now suggest that vertical drinking will not be permitted, it has never been permitted. So this isn't really a concession. And while they also say that they will only have people drinking with meals, we all know that meals actually could just constitute a packet of peanuts. And the noise from restaurant consumption is very small in comparison to the noise from drinking. Our main concern is the non-compliance of previous conditions that have already existed for several years. The other condition that we are not that happy with, or request that they want to make, is to increase the numbers, because obviously an increase in numbers will increase noise. There are many, many residents living not just in Queen's Wharf, but also in the adjoining areas, who have already expressed their concern in terms of noise and disturbance. And the same issues that applied before still apply now. And that's our main reason for objecting. Thank you.
I can't. You're on mute, Chair.
Sorry, can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. I said Philip will be speaking. Can we have Philip? Is he here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes, it may not surprise you to know that I live with Karen.
Oh, you have 5 minutes.
I'll try to be not repeat what she said. I'm thinking purely in terms of where we are. There are a large number of flats, some with families, young families, over the entrance and the tables and chairs outside the Riverside Studios. And certainly there was time a couple of years ago when they were in serious breach of the rules, when they were serving people outside. At one point, I captured 75 people on camera, where they were serving drinks on trays to people who were standing overlooking the river. And the noise was, it's like being above a pub. And I felt very bad for the people who had young children and they were trying to get them to sleep and they had to shut their windows. Because I haven't counted, but there must be 20 or 30 balconies that are on top of this entrance. Now, as a background, I completely support everything that the Riverside Studios is doing, and I hope that they flourish and do well. They have plenty of space inside to do what they want to do. And indeed, I support, everything they want to do to increase what they do inside, but there seems to be no justification for increasing the hours outside, especially when they've been in breach of their existing rules outside and caused a disturbance. And obviously you guys don't have the manpower to police it, and they're not prepared to pay their own staff to police it.
They do at weekends.
Well, they do a little bit at weekends, but clearly they've been in breach a lot, and that's been a constant disturbance to neighbours. And that's my main concern, that they do what they like inside. That won't disturb anybody, and I wish them the best of luck there. But I don't see any grounds to increase the hours of service outside where they will disturb other people. And that's my main point.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, can I have the applicant to speak? That is Tony.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. We last appeared before this committee in July 21, as has been referenced already. We applied for, at that time, an overhauled license with a whole lot of changes to our existing license. That request was rejected by the committee, and I think it's safe to say that we learned quite a lot from that rejection and the feedback received at the time, and thereafter through extensive consultation with our immediate neighbours, with the residents. And so tonight, instead of coming with a whole lot of requests as we did last time, we've come with just 3 variation requests. Since that previous application, we've held 6 residents meetings, more than a dozen individual meetings with residents and resident groups. We've worked really hard to make sure that the variation requests tabled today have been widely consulted. They're considerate, they've been considered, they're empathetic to the concerns of our neighbours. In fact, much of the wording on the varied conditions was suggested by residents themselves in our discussion with them. Last time round, there was in excess, I think, of 40 objections to application. This time round, there were 7. I think this feels like progress. It feels like great strides have been made, and I think it's fair to say that Riverside has certainly learned from its previous experience and is progressing accordingly. I'm happy to respond to specific questions that councillors may have around the objections, just to deal with some of the generalities that have been raised already this evening. There was a point about smells, refuse removal, handling that James raised. These are dealt with on an ongoing basis. We're a big, busy art centre. There are going to be issues with our suppliers, with our processes, with our systems. We do take them seriously. We do take on board the comments and feedback we get, and we action those as quickly as possible in the spirit of neighbourliness, as well as with the letter, under the letter of our licence. A lot has been said about members of the public sitting on the Thames pathway. I just want to flag that it was permissible trade at the time, last summer, which has been referenced a couple of times. We had a temporary off-premises licence that resulted in people purchasing alcohol from us and then going and sitting on the wall opposite our premises and consuming the alcohol. We don't have a mandate. It's public highway. We don't have jurisdictional authority to police that area. And also a large number of people, even since that temporary license has stopped, a large number of people go down to the river with alcohol purchased elsewhere or bought from home, and they sit on that wall. That wall is not part of our demise. So it's, I think, patently unfair to hold that up as an example of us being somehow negligent when it's not part of our domain, our demise. In fact, just the opposite. We spend quite a lot of time and effort and money cleaning that area, even though we don't have to, because we want the front of our building to look nice. We haven't been in breach of any of the rules. And as far as I know, in fact, I can state with absolute fact that there have been no enforcement notices around that particular issue that was raised this evening. And again, being cognizant of the concerns of our neighbours, when that temporary license lapsed in September 2022, we decided not to pursue a renewal of it. We didn't want to exacerbate the situation. We didn't want to contribute to any public disorder on the Thames walkway. And so our variation this evening really concerns our demise and the part of the of Riverside that we can control. As I said, there are three pretty straightforward requests that we're making. The first one, at the moment, we're allowed to have 68 people outside our building, 32 of them in the bakery area, 36 of them around our bar and kitchen area. If you know the area, you'll know that to get 32 people outside our bakery is a big ask. In fact, if we put 32 people there, they would obstruct the walkway. They would cause all sorts of chaos in that particular part. Instead, what we're asking for is to be able to spread that crowd around the perimeter of the building where we have far more space available so that they're not all congested in one part. Yes, we are asking for an increase in numbers from 65 to 72. It's 7 extra people. I don't believe that the addition of 7 extra people, which is 1 more table, which we can easily accommodate within our demise at the moment, is going to contribute to any contravention of the licensing objectives. The second one that we're asking is around the extended hour, and it's an hour, not hours, that we're asking for. At the moment, we have to stop serving outside our premises at 8:30 in the evening. We're asking for that to be extended to 9:30. We don't believe that 9:30 is unreasonable. In fact, it's consistent with many of the other businesses in our areas. A lot of the restaurants and pubs and other establishments in areas as dense or even denser with residential areas than we are, they have far later hours than that. I don't believe it's unreasonable, and it certainly won't contribute to an increase in disorder to allow people to sit outside the building. We are an art centre. People come and see shows and movies at Riverside. The movie comes out at 8:30. They then want to have a meal. Under the current restriction, we may not serve them outside, even if they want to peacefully sit and have a meal and a drink. We have to say to them, no, sorry, you cannot enjoy this public utility, the view of Hammersmith Bridge and the environment. It's slightly nonsensical and, as I said, inconsistent with what other businesses are permitted. The final variation that we've asked for is the current condition says that alcohol should not be sold on the premises otherwise than to people taking meals. That pretty much makes us the only art centre or theatre in the UK, I would imagine, that does not allow its patrons to buy a glass of wine when they come to the theatre or when they go and watch a film without also consuming a meal. We've taken on board the comments from the residents that they don't want us to turn into a pub-style environment. So we've said we won't have vertical drinking outside the premises, but we do want our patrons to be able to come to Riverside, enjoy a show, enjoy a community event or a film, and have a glass of wine while they're doing so. Again, as has been mentioned by the objectors this evening, what happens in the building is pretty self-contained. The building itself is very soundproof, and we don't believe that it will contribute to any disorder. It has been made that the point has been made in the objections that we're an art centre and food and beverage is not your core business. I would dispute that. I think food and beverage, like every other theatre in the country, it's baked into the business model. It's by selling food and beverage that we're able to do the community events, that to host the current Black and Gifted exhibition that we've got on, the community events, the various activities that we do in our building for our community that aren't revenue generating. We don't earn money from those. We have to somehow cover those costs. And like every other community art centre, like every other community theatre, we rely on the food and beverage trade to do so. So just looking at the licensing objectives, looking at the variations that we're requesting, I believe that the variations are fair, they're consistent with the licensing objectives, and certainly there's nothing that I believe can cause any alarm. I'll leave it there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Now, and each committee member asks question to any party and on issue on points they raised and the hearing. So can we have questions from the committee members? Councillor Dominic Stanton, have you got any question?
I do, Chair. Yes, thank you, and thank you everybody for the concise and helpful presentations that you've all made. They have, pardon me, they've actually answered a lot of the questions that I already had. So I will keep this brief. In no particular order, I'll be honest, the plans that are in the papers are very fuzzy. So they are a little difficult. Well, I can't actually read them. I can only see the lines. I do know the area relatively well from having walked past it. But if you could just, and this is, if I may call you Tony, can I call you Tony? Thank you. Tony, if you can just paint me a picture really of the external area. So I know as you walk down, was it Kincaidine Street, there's the kind of the curved bit, which is quite a large-ish area of pavement. It then goes round, turning to the left, along the Thames Path, where it's considerably narrower. Can you just outline to me what the different areas are that you're,
Yes, certainly. So you walk along Queen Caroline Street. On your left-hand side are some glass windows, which is the exterior of Riverside. As you get to the slipway portion and you step onto the Thames pathway, immediately on your left is what is the cross-hatched version on the fuzzy plan. I apologize for that, which is the bakery external area. We have a couple of tables there, and that's where we serve teas and coffees and cakes and sandwiches and so on. If you then continue past our front doors, you get to where the building starts curving around the walkway. A fairly narrow portion from the edge of the building out, probably 1.5 to 2 meters in width, is our premises that is covered by this premises license. On that area, we currently have 9 tables that can seat 6 people at each table. They don't extend onto the walkway. They are contained within our demise. And we put some planters there to demarcate them from the walkway. And even with them in place, the walkway itself is pretty wide. Yes, it does narrow off a bit. It then bulges out a bit and then narrows again. But it is fairly wide. You could probably get 6 to 8 people walking abreast, I think, on the walkway. Maybe six skinny people.
6 skinny people was that? So 2 or 3 of me.
Yeah, and 1 or 2 of me.
Okay, thank you. So, and I did say that these questions are in no particular order, so forgive me if I jump around a little bit. There were listed in the papers that we've received were a number of enforcement actions or issues. This is a question to licensing, I think. Lorna, can you just expand on those, please?
I can help out with that if you like, Lorna.
Yeah, Adrian.
So yeah, there have been some enforcement interactions with the premises. The most recent on the 1st of August 2022, a warning letter was issued for a breach of condition 45, alcohol not being sold on the premises otherwise than to persons taking a table meal. I don't know the exact details of that enforcement interaction, but obviously that the officer at the time established that person hadn't taken a table meal or hadn't taken it very recently, and decided it was appropriate to issue a warning letter on that occasion. And then there's a couple of other interactions in relation to a breach of condition 10C in relation to CCTV, where it wasn't covering the outside area. And my understanding of that is that the officer wanted to try and establish what was happening in that outside area and if people were taking table meals and that type of thing. So, and I understand that condition's now been complied with, so that if an officer wanted to go down to the premises, they could see the outside of the premises and see if that condition's being complied with. And then back in September, there were some other breaches that have now been rectified as well.
Thank you very much. No, Tony, back to you. Just most specifically, the breach in August of 2022.
Yes, and in fact, we did an investigation following the visit from the officer and decided to just leave it at that. It was in fact a patron who was waiting for a party to arrive that she was again going to join. She was enjoying a drink on her own outside the building on our premises. It appeared as if she was sitting there alone. And we lost her on the CCTV footage, but she did in fact join a party inside and then proceeded to have a meal with them and enjoy her evening. The other breaches, I know you said specifically that one, the other breaches, Adrian is quite right, they have all been rectified. They were just technical and administrative, if I can call them that.
I'll be honest, I'm not, there was the one in August that I was really concerned about. Thank you. If I could just ask Karen and Philip a question, which is, Tony mentioned a number of resident engagement meetings that had been held. I was just wondering if you had actually attended any of them, and if so, what your thoughts were about them.
Yes, I have attended all of them, I believe, maybe apart from one. And there has been consultation about these issues at every meeting except the last one, which was last week. And there is a feeling that we have had some impact on the wording. I would agree with Tony on that, but that there's been no budging at all on the changes and variations that Riverside Studios are requesting.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Tony, my colleague, Councillor Ume, this is the first time that either of us have actually heard an application from yourselves. So there's been much reference to previous licensing applications that have been rejected. And you specifically said that following consultation, you've actually kind of rode back on some of the requests that you were going to make. Could you just give me a couple of examples of what you are no longer requesting that you had previously requested?
A lot of our requests previously were related to the original premises license. When I came into post in 2019, that original license was put in front of me as being our premises license, and it was messy and vague and badly worded in many respects. So the previous hearing that we had in 2021, we were trying to clean that up, but in the course of doing so, it just caused more confusion, and there was a sense that we were somehow trying to rewrite the premises license. I think it's fair to say that we were badly advised when we came into that last hearing. We weren't well prepared going into it. Some of the things that we were looking at adjusting capacities inside the venue, specific room capacities within the venue, that we've disregarded that. I think our original request, I speak on a correction, tried to get even more tables outside the building, which we've now rode back on. So there were a couple of things like that. And forgive me, I don't have that previous application in front of me, so I'd be digging into my memory. But there were probably about, I would say, 10 to 12 things that we were looking to change previously, and we've distilled that down to these three.
Thank you. Chair, I will have some more questions, but if you'll forgive me, I have delivery at my front door. So if you ask the next question, I'm just going to let this gentleman in. I'll be back in a second. I'm sorry.
Thank you, committee member. I think you have asked most of the questions, but my question is, you are requesting that is to James. No. My question is to Tony. Tony, you said it's only 7. You are only asking for 7 a seat or 7 more. 7 more space for these 7 people, and for that, it's simple. But you have got a big space inside. Why do you want extra space outside? That's it's just I need to understand that more, because I know you have a bigger space inside. Inside.
Yeah, Chair, that's a fair question, and we do have a big space inside. Of course, not a lot of it is given over to the restaurant, because we've got TV studios and theatres and cinemas and exhibition spaces and so on. So it's really to take advantage of the fact that we are probably, and I know I'm biased, but I'm sure many people here would agree with me, we're probably in one of the most beautiful parts of London. And being trapped inside the building, deep in our atrium or in the restaurant where you can't even see Hammersmith Bridge is a liability. One of our selling points is our location. It's why the residents bought the flats that they bought, because it's a beautiful location. And it's to really take advantage of that, particularly in the summer months. It's really great to be able to sit there and look at Hammersmith Bridge, as traffic free as it may be, and enjoy the river and the environment. And I think it's part of the Riverside offering. It's in our name. It's part of how we market ourselves, position ourselves, come down to the river. We know that the council has a strategy of building the riverfront economy. We're part of the Riverside Business Group, Riverfront Business Group, forgive me, which is quite keen on stimulating the economy in that part of Hammersmith, to move some of the economic focus from other parts of the borough down to the river and capitalize on what is a huge community asset and a borough asset, and it's a very marketable thing, and we want to play a role in that. So saying to our patrons, yes, we've got that beautiful view outside and we've got this beautiful backdrop, however, we can't allow you to sit there, just seems slightly iniquitous. If we were asking for it to be at 1 a.m. in the morning or at midnight, I would totally agree, and we wouldn't even consider putting in such a proposal. But I don't think that a 9:30 p.m. cease trading out there is unreasonable.
But
sorry, no, I didn't ask you, please.
Okay.
Please, Karen, no, you can't ask him a question. Yeah, I quite understand what you're saying, Tony, but what of the residents upstairs? What of the people that live above your premises in terms of having to think of crime and noise and all that? What do you think? What have you made available so that to prevent noise for them getting the noise coming out from your premises during this time? You are saying all this. So what have you done with that?
So, as has been noted by the objectors, any noise issues relate primarily to people who are outside the building, and people who enter and who arrive and leave at the building, particularly after a big show. Absolutely, 500 people leaving in the space of 10 minutes. It's going to be noisy. By offering them an opportunity to stay, you're distilling that a little bit, I would argue. We obviously have signs up at the door asking people to be considerate. On busy nights, we have SIAs on duty. Our front of house staff go and stand in the front by the doors and try and quieten people down. We've identified various bottlenecks. Often people wait for Ubers on Queen Caroline Street. So we try and make sure that they're not there talking loudly on their phones or talking raucously and so on, to try and soften that. And given the number of people who do come through the building, I would ordinarily expect that there'd be significantly more complaints than we've received. But we generally don't receive complaints about noise. In general, our audiences, we're not a party venue. At the moment, our flagship show at Riverside is Winnie the Pooh. The Winnie the Pooh audience aren't drunk and raucous, I hope. They're families that come to Riverside, and that's pretty much what we're trying to position ourselves as, is a family-friendly community arts center. We're not a drinking hole, we're not a pub. We're a place that families can come in a safe environment, enjoy some quality entertainment, some world-class entertainment in Hammersmith, and also enjoy a drink and a meal with their family at the same time. And that's what we're trying to inculcate. That's what we're trying to develop, and that's our business model. So we do work really hard to try and contain it. Human nature being what it is, we don't always get it right.
Yeah, I quite understand that. And in terms of the breaches, my fellow councillor has mentioned it, committee member. You've done a lot of breaches, around that time, including that you don't have enough staff. So now, what is the difference? What difference are you going to make with, having seen the past and future that will say, okay, I need this because I'm going to employ more staff. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, so the breaches that have been noted, and also the objections that were noted, were all around last summer when we were trading with our temporary license, our takeaway and our pavement license, which, as I said, we haven't renewed. So I don't expect that to be an issue this coming summer. We're focusing just on our premises this summer. We're focusing inside the building and on our immediate outside part of our premises. And we've learned a lot. Last summer, Riverside had been closed for 5 years. We reopened in 2019, then COVID hit. Then we had summer 21, where suddenly our business exploded. We had a whole brand new team doing our best to try and stay afloat and stay and survive as a business, doing what we could to generate revenue. And yes, we made mistakes, but I think we've learned a lot. Learning is very much part of our internal culture. We've learned a lot, and our staff have learned a lot, and we've invested a lot in training our staff and working with our staff and employing good staff and paying our staff well so that we retain them. I think we were in a completely different place from where we were this time last year. And going into the summer, I'm pretty confident that I am confident that we don't have the temporary license. That's not going to be an issue anymore. I think things will be far better under control this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Karen, you wanted to say something. What else? That you have had meetings with Riverside, and and are you getting any sense of they are going to listen, or as you said they are not budging? Why are they not budging? I can't hear you.
You are muted the microphone. Karen,
When you're muted.
you're muted. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry. My biggest concerns are that there has been a breakdown of trust between the neighbours, not just Queen's Wharf residents, but the neighbourhood in general, because there have been breaches and because we have been promised things that haven't followed up on. With any new owner, what assurances do we have? Tony might give assurances now, but that doesn't mean that they will be followed through. But my biggest issue still relates to the extended hours, which is that although they will stop serving at 9:30, the clients are still sitting outside till 10 p.m. That is, they are allowed to stay till 10 p.m. So it's actually 10 o'clock is the cutoff. For lots of families, that's way past bedtime. That is a disturbance at 10 o'clock. When people get up from their tables at 10 o'clock, they will make noise and they will, say bye and shout. And then we have, the tidying up process and so on. So I know the intentions are great and we do want people to succeed. We want Riverside Studios to do well. That's not the issue, but it is about the hours. And I have one other question for Tony.
No, you can't ask question to Tony.
Sorry?
You cannot ask question to Tony, please.
I'll phrase it differently. My concern was that the increase in numbers, I'm just a bit confused because in the application, they are requesting tables of 6 instead of tables of 4. But Tony just said that he would be adding or possibly adding 1 extra table. And I'm a bit confused about what exactly is on offer in terms of numbers of people sitting at the existing tables. Or is it another table, or is it less tables at the bakery or more tables around the outside? And where will the additional tables be? So there's a lot of unclear items. But as I said, my biggest concern is relating to the hours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen.
Outside hours.
Outside hours, sorry, yeah.
Outside hours, okay. Councillor, do you have any question?
Yeah, well, firstly, apologies for earlier. Amazon have now delivered. You'll be, I'm sure, delighted to know. Tony, Karen wasn't allowed to ask you a question, but did actually posit a query. Can I ask that question of you with regards to the tables? And also, if you can comment about the 10 p.m. Closing time externally and the kind of the clear up process, etc.
Okay. Yeah, so just doing some quick maths. At the moment, we have 9 tables that can seat 6 people each, and we have 4 tables outside the bakery that can seat 4 people each. But just to focus on the overall number, our present license allows us to have 32 people at the bakery and 36 at the restaurant. That's 68 in total. We, at the moment, as I said earlier, having 32 people crammed outside the bakery, it's too many. There's not enough space there. I could walk you through it. It's just, I'm not. It's one of those things that I'm not sure that it was properly considered when this original license was issued. But so all we want to do is move some of that capacity into the tables that we have existing and add an extra table along the walkway. Karen knows that there is space along there within our demise, within the marked area on our plan, and that would get us up to the total of 75. So, you know, it's just the totality of the number. We really are, at the moment, we can have 60, whatever it is, 68 people there. We're asking for that to be increased to 75. We'll manage the people. Obviously, people want to sit comfortably and don't want to sit on top of each other, and they can't be on the walkway. We'll have to manage that with the table configurations. And also, if we put the tables there, if a family of 4 comes along, we're not going to make them share with a couple that might be sitting on their own. So we need the flexibility to be able to move people along there. We're just asking that that overall cap is spread out outside our premises rather than specifying the bakery and the bar and kitchen as 2 separate areas. In relation to the 10 o'clock thing, our tables are bolted to the ground, so there's no noise as we move the tables around. The benches are turned upside down and put on the tables, and in some instances they're carried in, but that doesn't make a noise. And inevitably, yes. I mean, I can't say there will never be any noise from those tables. Yes, there will be, but I think the flats directly above are in a far better position than, say, the flats in behind us in Crisp Road, which has a pub which has people outside until 11 p.m. As part of their license, as I understand it. And they're on both sides of the street. There's flats that overlook that. So again, we're just asking for fairness and consistency in the borough so that we can make sure that we are able to trade on an equal footing with other businesses in our area. I don't believe that a family of 4 sitting having a meal under a solid roof, which is what covers the area, I don't believe that causes a disturbance through the double glazed windows of the flats above. And if 10 o'clock is bedtime, then people aren't going to be out on their balcony listening for some noise. They'll be in bed and they won't hear it. So yeah, to be honest, I'm not convinced by that particular argument.
Thank you. Thankfully, it's not you that needs to be convinced. So you just said that the tables were bolted to the ground. So effectively, you have a fixed configuration, and what you're looking to do is change that fixed configuration to a new fixed configuration.
The current configuration will remain there. We will just add 1 more table,
which will be bolted to the ground.
Correct.
So I'm slightly confused. But at the moment you have capacity. How many covers can you seat at the tables at the moment in total?
Outside the bar and kitchen area, we've got 9 tables. You could get 6 people at each table.
In total, how many covers can you do in total?
54 outside the bar and kitchen area.
All right. So effectively, although you're licensed for a total of 68, you actually only seating currently 54.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Is that 64? Or is it 54 including outside or just inside?
This is only outside.
Only outside, 54 outside.
Correct.
And you are asking for more outside.
You're asking for an extra 7 capacity outside, yes.
And how many do you sit inside?
It's about 110 or so.
Okay.
But bear in mind, the studios, Studio 1, our TV studio, has a capacity of 500 people. Studio 2, 350. Studio 3 has 200. Plus, we have 2 cinemas. So we have potentially up to 1,000 people a night coming through the building. So we're trying to accommodate as many of them as we possibly can in our restaurant area. The big that exterior area is huge. It's long. It's not that they're spread out very thinly around the entire circumference of the building.
Yeah.
Can I say forgive me if I've misread the papers. It's been a long day. I'm ever so mildly confused in that you're talking about adding a table of 6 to take your total to 60 covers. we still have no vertical drinking in the external restaurant area, but you're looking to increase the number to 75.
We still have the bakery area. So those tables I spoke about are in the bar and kitchen section.
Sorry, let me rephrase my question. I wasn't clear, sorry. In the whole of the external area, how many covers can you do now?
We currently have 54 outside the bar and kitchen. We have got 4 tables around which we could put 4 people, so 16. So that's a total of 70 between the bar and kitchen and the bakery. But we obviously don't fill those because at the moment we're not allowed to.
No, that's fine. So currently you've got 60. You could seat 70 covers. Sorry, and you're looking to put in another table which would make 76, but that wouldn't be. I'm not suggesting you're going to seat 76, but I'm just trying to understand the maths because I was confused. But now you've clarified that. That's fine. Chair, I'm sure I will think of some questions once we've gone to deliberations, but I can't think of what they are right now. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the extension of the hours to what was said. You want to extend the hours to 9:30, and and currently the time is 8:30. So what time will you start packing your chairs if you put your time to that to 9:30? And what time will the last person finish drinking?
So we would stop serving at 9:30 and customers would have half an hour to finish up. We would start moving the benches as they became free whenever. So it wouldn't be all at a set time. So as the people finish up between 9:30 and 10, we would start moving those benches in. Each table only has 2 benches. So it's not a big effort. It's not a noisy effort. And yeah, it can happen pretty quickly. It takes 10-15 minutes to clear all those benches.
And what time is inside? How long inside you can stay there till what time?
11.
At 11.
So at that point, we would, any customers who were still around, we'd advise them to go inside and finish up inside. Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any more question unless you have. You know. Okay.
No.
Okay. Now we go to we can ask the parties to sum up. We give them 3 minutes in order to sum up. Can I ask, starting with the licensing officer, Lorna, can you sum up in 3 minutes?
No further comments, Chair.
Further comment. Okay. Can I ask James James to sum up within 3 minutes? Have you got?
I don't think I got anything else to add.
Okay. Okay. Can I ask Karen then?
Hello, I'm going to pass my comment on to Philip. He'll sum up instead.
Okay, Philip, in that case, I'm going to allow you 6 minutes altogether.
Thank you.
That is, you're taking Lorna, Karen, and yours. So 6 minutes, starting.
Okay. We made it quite clear that it's 10 o'clock, it's not 9:30, and it'll probably stretch a bit beyond that. I think that is very unfair for people with families who are immediately above it. And I really strongly ask you to keep it to the existing rules, which are the rules that they knew when they set up the business. And there seems no reason, I haven't heard a reason from them other than financial to extend it to that hour. And, oh, that's you, you're right.
Yes, sorry.
I think compare that with the people on the other side of the building who are above a pub, and of course the pub is open later, is also is completely inappropriate, and I think quite insulting actually, because if you have a young family, you probably won't have a flat opposite the pub if you can avoid it, because you know you're in a flat, you know the pub's there, the pub's been there for years, and you know how noisy that will be. But on the other side, where you're above an arts centre, you can expect to live peacefully with a young family, with the license deal quite clear that they have to be out by 9 o'clock. And we live with that because that's what we bought into. And we can deal with that with young children. But going an extra hour is a significant change to a young family. And they've got, as you observed, plenty of space inside to do much more than they're doing now. It doesn't need to be outside, not at 10 o'clock at night. There are very few days in the year when 10 o'clock at night is that good. I mean, I'd like to think there are more than there are, but there aren't. The other thing is a point of order on the pavement license, and I think this is relevant because it gives an attitude. I think they were in breach of the pavement license, but the pavement license, as I read the rules, state that you can extend your operations inside to outside. Now, if the rules inside that you have to serve drink with food means that if you're extending your pavement license, you have to serve drink with food. During that time, I saw, and I have videos of staff of Riverside Studios going out with drinks on trays, serving people as they were against the other side of the towpath overlooking the river. Actually, apart from anything else, you've got bicycles, you've got cyclists, you've got prams, you've got everything else. It's actually a very narrow pinch point. If you look at it, that particular area is actually narrower than anywhere else. And you've got bicycles, as I say, prams, everything else. You need to be careful that there's no serving outside and they don't do breaches. They haven't been doing breaches recently because they wanted to get this license change through. But once they get the license, I think they'll start breaching again. I'm sorry, we have lost trust. And I'm sorry to have to say that because we'd love to support Riverside Studios, but we really don't trust them now in terms of looking after the residents. Thank you very much.
Chair, your microphone, Chair.
Yeah, please, sorry. I think Philip, is Philip there?
Hello, yes.
Okay, you have summed up, okay. Now, can I ask the applicant to sum up, please? I'll give you 6 minutes, that's 20. Sum up, 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure I won't use all 6 minutes, but if I do go over, I'll use some of Philip's extra minutes. I'm sure he wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Look, I don't need to remind this committee or anyone else of what the 4 licensing objectives are, but what I can ask is that you measure these variation requests against those objectives. And don't judge us on what might happen or what might be. Judge us on what we are now, what we do now, how we operate. I think you'd be hard-pressed if you considered the variation on the basis of those licensing objectives to find anything other than that they're fair and reasonable requests. The breaches that Philip was referring to, had he reported them at the time and had a licensing officer come down and given credence to them and believed those reports, there would have been some sort of enforceable action against us. There hasn't been on those particular points that Philip was raising with his 75 people that he captured on video. That is a public walkway. People go and sit on there and they consume alcohol. I believe right now, as we're sitting here, there are people sitting out on that wall consuming alcohol. They did not get that alcohol from us, but they're going out and they're enjoying their time on a public highway. So it is happening already. We are positioning ourselves, and we have positioned ourselves as a family-oriented community arts center. I mentioned Winnie the Pooh earlier. That's a precursor to a longer-term relationship with the same producers and Disney for future productions. It's in our business interests that Riverside continues to be a safe and a happy environment, and we've demonstrated that it can be. Everything we do for the community is already aligned with the licensing objectives, as will everything that we do in the future. It's been noted that we've applied for various TENs over the year. That's for parent and baby screenings of age-rated films, extended trading hours, private functions, late-night events, and so on. And there has not been a single complaint or enforcement notice against any one of those TENs notices. We've managed them well, we've staffed them well, we've responded well, we've taken our neighbours into consideration for every single one of those events. We're active and engaged members of the local community, the business and policing groupings, and we welcome thousands of local residents to our building. Our charitable objective is to make the arts accessible to all. We have approaching 400 members of a dive-in program to let the local estates come into our centre and enjoy the arts, enjoy cinema, enjoy theatre, community events, workshops, local business group meetings, storytelling sessions, and so on. We do a lot for our community. We are part and parcel of the community. There's no ways we're going to jeopardize that positioning by turning ourselves into a drinking hole. That's not what we're about. That's not what we want to do. But we need to survive. And it is absolutely an economic reality, like every art centre in the country, probably in the world, where food and beverage sales is what keeps that community's art centre going. That's the truth of it. It's not a position we'd like to be in. We'd love for lots of money to fall from the skies to keep us going. But food and beverage, it's part of our business model. It's been reiterated to us time and time again recently. Yes, it's been noted we've gone into administration. There's a prospect of new owners. Those new owners will be bound by whatever this license says. Those new owners will be bound by the planning permission on the building. If they want to come back and vary it, then they'll have to come back and vary it with this committee, and there's a process that will follow. For now, though, we are trading as a going concern, and it is our hope that we will continue, even after the building is sold, to continue trading as Riverside Trust in that building, doing what we do for the community. It's a difficult time for us, and in this time, the residents have all come to us and said, how can we help? What is it that we can do for you to help you? We've had meetings with the leader of the council and his team, and they've said, how can we help? What can we do? Because we recognize the importance of Riverside in the cultural and economic life of the borough. These variation requests might seem small, but they will make a substantive difference to our business and our viability. And in answer to the question, how can you help? Approving these variation requests is the best way that we can get help right now.
Thank you, Tony. I have to stop you. Okay, thank you. Deliberation. The committee will now retire and take its decision in a separate meeting room. An adjournment tile will be displayed during our deliberation. You are welcome to stay to remain in the meeting to hear the committee's decision. However, this might take some time. If you do not want to wait, a summary decision will be published on council's website tomorrow morning. Can I ask members to turn off their video, mute their microphone, and join me in a private meeting in Teams? So, thank you. I will come back. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Is everybody in? Hello?
Yes, I
Okay.
think, yeah.
Okay. Okay. A summary decision of the license subcommittee, 10th May 2023. The Riverside Studio, 101 Queen Caroline Street, London West 6, 9BN. The committee has considered an application for the variation of premises license to amend conditions 37, 45, and 46 of existing license under the Licensing Act 2003. The application. In summary, the committee has decided, after taking into account all of the individual circumstances of the case and promotion of 4 licensing objectives, to grant the application in part by amending condition 37 and 45 of the premises license. 2, modify the condition as set below. Condition 37, the number of persons seated at the external customer area of the premises shall be limited to 68. Condition 45, alcohol shall not be sold on the premises otherwise than to a person taking a table meal there, or to a person participating in attending events, films, production, or exhibition at the premises. No vertical drinking shall be permitted in the external restaurant area. This licensing becomes operational within immediate effect. If problems are experienced, then an application for review of the premises license can be made. A copy of this committee's full licensing, including its reason and full text of the condition added to the licensing, will be sent to parties forthwith. If applicant is unhappy with the decision, they are entitled to appeal to the magistrate court within 21 days from the date of notification of full licensing. I would like to thank everyone for attending or watching tonight's meeting. A summary decision will be published on Council's website tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.